Try to be part of community events, right? Try to be part of live events happening locally. This way, people can put a face to your company, right? They can put a face to the school. So live events have worked really well for us. Birthday parties have worked well. Internal events, buddy days, buddy bashes, parents night outs, and then just making sure we update our Google listing, making sure we're posting just like we post on Facebook and Instagram. Are we posting like that on our Google pages? So that's something that we're really getting heavy into. Like we're trying to post, at least weekly, if not every other day, get a video, get a picture up on Google. Because what we found is most of our leads that are ready to sign up are coming from Google because they're looking for us.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the Seven Figure Secrets podcast. Jennifer Waters here, and I'm joined by my dad, Tommy Siegler, and our amazing guest, Mr. MJ Sing. MJ, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
We are excited. For those of you who may not be familiar with MJ, he has 3 schools in the East Brunswick area of New Jersey. He just hit 7 figures last year, 2023. This recording is in 2024. I'm sure you're going to hit it again this year as well. So we're going to be picking his brain on the things that allowed him to become so successful. There is a very small percentage of martial arts school owners that are hitting 7 figures. So anytime we get to dig in to the specifics of how it's done, we want to share that with this community. So again, MJ, super pumped to have you here. I guess maybe where we start this is, a lot of people would be interested to hear a little bit more about, your school size, like the details of your school and your area. And I know you have 3, so maybe just kind of give us an overview of 3 schools. You can't be in everywhere, so I'm assuming you have staff, and maybe just kind of break down a little bit about your schools in the beginning.
So, I was really lucky. I started martial arts in a really good school, right? So I'm fortunate that I had a really amazing instructor, and he had really good, solid systems on teaching and on business. So I was blessed where you can go into any martial arts school, right? But I was really blessed that I walked into the right school. He had a model of one big location where I just like the smaller school model a little bit better. So that's around 1,500, 1,500 square feet to 1,800 square feet. One really good full timer, a few part timers with helping them, and we're shooting, for 150 students. We're keeping it really, really simple, and that's kind of been our model for, I opened up into that end of 2011 to beginning of 2012. That's worked well for us. And that's something that I enjoy the interaction, right? Instead of having the monster school of 400 or 500 students,
Yeah.
I like that smaller. I know the instructors knows everyone's name. There's that close relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so important to keep in mind. And I think a lot of people can get stuck of, okay, well, I don't want to have a big giant 7-figure school, or maybe I'd only want to, look at a smaller school. There's multiple ways we can get there. Obviously we do have that 500 student school and have our flagship school, that single location. You have multiple. So lots of different ways to go there. Was there a point in time, just to kind of follow up that question really quick, was there a point in time where you made the decision to get to 7 figures through multiple locations?
It just worked that way. So I opened one location, had really good help, and our number two, she was amazing. So I was like, "Hey, what do we do? What's the next logical step?" Right?
Yeah,
Uh, and it wasn't something that we planned or anything like that. It just kind of naturally happened. So the team is really, really good. I'm blessed to have a really amazing team, and just to offer them opportunity, we went and opened up a second location. So first one was open in 2012, which we started really small. We actually subleased a space. We built up a student base. Then we went 2 years later and opened up a storefront. And then 5 years later, we went to a second location, and that was because the town I'm in is really affluent. I wanted to go into a town that was a little bit more dense, and that was our second location, about 15 minutes down the road. Still a really good income area, but at the same time, it was just way more elementary schools, way more kids overall versus our first location. First
yeah,
location, it's been an amazing journey from location 1, 2 to 3, and every time you go to another one, there's, growing pains and learning
right.
lessons. But, I think that model just something I really enjoy where, I can help them really do well within a year, and then they can run that location, pretty fast.
Wow.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, that's really good. MJ, you've been in martial arts for a good while, and let's back up a little bit. What prompted you to get into martial arts, number one? And then once you got in martial arts, what was the big thing, was the aha moment that said, "You know what? I love this so much. I wanna actually teach it."
It goes back to my instructor, right? My instructor just was an amazing impact on me, right? When I started, I was definitely a little bit shorter. I had a lot of hair at the time. So,
I did too when I started.
so,
Got the
um,
Ball brothers again, right?
Yeah.
so we saw a grand opening sign. I used to live in an apartment complex. We would go, me, my mom, we went grocery shopping. We saw this big grand opening sign. We walked in, we got information, we didn't do anything. Then our neighbor was like, hey, we're gonna go take martial arts classes. Why don't you guys come with us? So it's two sisters, my sister, my two neighbors who were sisters, my sister and me, all of us went. And my instructor originally thought I was a girl because I had long hair, I was really skinny. Right.
Oh,
Um,
man.
so it was just he just put me through such an amazing experience of,
Wow.
making me believe, believe in myself, building my confidence, obviously putting me through a hard workout, and I just fell in love with it within a couple months. He's like, "Hey, why don't you come help me with class?" Right? I, the cool thing was that I was one of his first students when he opened up. Right? So his name
Mm.
is Chris Bro. He was moving from Brooklyn to New Jersey. He opened up a school, in another state, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you might need extra classes. Why don't you just come help me?" Because in the first couple months, I wasn't as coordinated, I wasn't as confident. So he allowed me to help class. There'll be time I'd ride my bike because I lived in the apartment complex behind. I'd ride my bike to school, pick it up, put it in the back, and I would just take all the classes from the little guys all the way to the teen class, adult class. And
Mm.
that allowed me to get really, really good. And that was in 1998 when I was 11. And then I saw the impact that he made in my, in my life and other kids' life and the lifestyle he had. I was like, man, I want to do what he's doing. Right? I want to have that same type of impact on other people that he's had on me.
Wow. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, that are fortunate to have a great instructor, try to emulate that person, but it's even more when they inspire that belief in you, not just because you saw it from afar, but when they're specifically speaking into you. Um, uh, you graduated from Rutgers with a bachelor's in economics and psychology. Do you think that your martial arts training helped you, like through all of that? You want to speak to that maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was still helping my instructor run his location at the time. So just the mindset of I just wanted to get school done, right? It's something my mom was like, hey, you gotta go to school, right? I did get this was back in 2008, 2009 during the great financial depression.
Yeah.
And I was still offered a job because I just went on so many interviews. I did, internships. But instead of taking that job, I went and worked full time for my instructor because I was like, hey, this is what I know, this is what I want to do for the long run. So I got lucky in that way where I kind of knew what I wanted to do as far as a career for the long run because of the impact it had on me at such a young age. Uh,
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. And so you started working for him full time. Um, did you have in your mind that you were gonna like open your own school, or that's as far as it went? I'm just gonna be a full time like instructor.
So the way that whole thing happened was 2009, I graduated. We had a special needs camp that reached out to us saying, hey, is there someone that can run martial arts class for our special needs students? So I
Mm,
did that. They loved it. They're like, oh, can you keep this going? Right. So then we started a separate program just for students with special needs that are on the spectrum. So
wow,
that class kind of blew up. It went from like 5 kids to now me having three different sets of classes and like having 30 families that are taking that class.
wow.
So that led to I was like, hey, sir, does it make sense to open up another location? But at the time, my instructor just got back on his feet from the great financial, crisis. Uh,
Yeah.
because we're in New Jersey, we're close. We're about 45 minutes, an hour away. So he's like, hey, man, I'm feeling good right now. Like, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to do anything else. But you have my blessing. Like, if you want to go do something, you have my support. Whatever you need, just go a little bit further away, right? Take
Oh,
your students with you. And what happened is eventually I was working from 5 days a week. I went and subleased a space 1 day a week. Then I went to 4 days working for him, 2 days, three
mm,
days. So slowly phased myself out because
Mhm.
I really cared for that relationship. I still care about that relationship, right? So
yeah.
I obviously wanted to make sure that we left on good terms and all that good stuff.
There's a lot of people that don't do that in this industry.
Yeah,
A
you're
ton.
right.
So, I mean, that took a lot of moral character on your part, so kudos to you for doing that 'cause, man,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who don't. I can tell you that, that's for sure. That's for sure.
So you have got your school running. Now, I'm not even gonna assume that you're sitting back chilling out. You're teaching classes and you're continuing to train. How important do you think it is for martial arts instructors to continue their training, whether it's underneath someone else or whether it's polishing up what they know, finding mentors to help them along their way and polish their skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So even while, I was owning a school, I was training in jiu-jitsu, right? I just got my black belt after a bunch of years in
Woohoo.
August 2022. It feels like yesterday, right? It feels jiu-jitsu, I would say, just helps you to be a good teacher, you got to be a good student first, right?
Right.
And by you being a good student and being consistent with your training, it just now you can share those lessons with your students, right? It's fresh versus you're trying to, recall those lessons from residue, right? From way, way, way back. Um, so I think you just set the example if you're training, whether it's the same style or a different style, you can clearly say, hey, I'm training 2, 3 times a week. Hey, make sure you guys are getting here 2, 3 times a week, right? It's a fair ask if you're also doing it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what styles are you, most interested in, currently training in? Like, what do you think is relevant for you and your martial arts journey and maybe your instructors?
Sure. So we start with a basic karate program for kids. So I started with karate. And then I got exposed a little bit to like Thai boxing and Krav Maga. So we do offer some Krav Maga for adults. And then after that, I got introduced to BJJ through my instructor, right? And that's pretty much majority of the training that I've been doing for the last couple of years, which is just focused on BJJ.
Mm, mm.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people I think are finding that mix. We have Kempo karate as well, and then we also have kickboxing and then jujitsu also. And I think that for a lot of people, it's like, okay, can we get a traditional element? Can we get a combat style element? And then can we get the gentle art? Do you find that it helps keep your students longer?
So I think the evolution of martial arts is slowly like headed in that direction where you need a little bit of ground stuff, you need a little bit of stand up, but you still need that traditional protocol, that traditional values, at least in my eyes, right? Being
Yeah.
37, right? Not it's not much, not that I know everything or know a little bit, but from the my experience, I think it's if you can get a little bit of ground in there, people feel comfortable on the floor, right? At least some basic rolls, some basic shrimps, that kind of stuff. If you can get some stand up, some Thai boxing or just boxing drills in there. I know adults love striking, right? They love the
Mhm.
boxing aspect. And then how do we put all that together in some traditional form where everyone's bowing, everyone's saying yes, sir. They're part of that tribe, they're part of that culture
Yeah.
Mhm.
that we would want, you want our family to be exposed to, we want our kids to be exposed to, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. You're right on point there. And when you gotta think about serving people and giving them your best, you have to think about the family and trying to include a family. And we have classes for little itty bitty kids. We have classes for moms and dads. We have classes for just anybody, just a single adult to walk in the door. And I'm sure that's how you run and what you do. Let me ask you this. Let's shift it a little bit. Let's talk the B word, business.
All right.
Um,
It's my
let
bread
me
and
ask you,
butter. I'm ready. Let's go. Bread and butter. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
we're, we're, we're going to ask you for some secrets now, some secrets of success. If you
There
feel
we go.
comfortable, I want you to share what you feel comfortable sharing. What is one thing that you would say was crucial for you to be able to hit that seven-figure mark?
Delegation, right? Being
Mm,
trust your team, all right? Giving your team a lot of trust to be able to like I know a lot of, even me, even you, no one wants to be micromanaged, right? No one wants
No, no.
right? So giving them a lot of faith, giving a lot of trust, building their confidence, letting them know that you believe in them, letting them know that, we are successful because of your efforts. Like giving them a lot of credit, giving them a lot of positive feedback. And uh, it's a healthy balance, right? Because obviously in martial arts, we want to be the main guy. But if you're the main guy, then you're stuck at one location, right? So
You're right.
if, as long as you're okay with sharing the spotlight, you're okay with giving those guys a platform, giving them some freedom. I've maybe given too much freedom, right? But so it's a healthy balance. I'm still young in this game, 12 years in as a business owner. So I think there's definitely, things I'm still learning, things that, I still want to get better at.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah.
So let's kind of dive into the other aspect. Marketing is such a huge piece, and if I talk to most school owners when they come to us for the seven figure dojo program that we take them through to help them get to seven figures and beyond, learning what the secrets are to getting leads and attracting them to their school is probably one of the more difficult things that a lot of school owners face. So for you guys, what are some things that you're doing that you find that are effective for marketing? If a school owner is listening to this, that they should definitely give some second thought to.
Try to be part of community events, right? Try to be part of live events happening locally. This way, people can put a face to your company, right? They can put a face to the school. So live events have worked really well for us. Birthday parties have worked well. Internal events, buddy days, buddy bashes, parent sign outs, and then just making sure we update our Google listing, making sure we're posting just like we post on Facebook and Instagram. Are we posting like that on our Google pages? So that's something that we're really getting heavy into. Like we're trying to post, at least weekly, if not every other day, get a video, get a picture up on Google. Because what we found is most of our leads that are ready to sign up are coming from Google because they're looking for us. Well,
Yeah.
versus Facebook, we're kind of looking for them, right? So they might be just two different quality leads, right? Um, Facebook definitely is working too, right? We have people that come from there, but sometimes you just got to give them a little bit more time, give them a little bit more information. They're more, I guess, more like prospects than people that are ready to sign up.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's definitely one thing that we talk about a lot and that we focus on is whenever we're working with clients is really making sure that they're using the 3-2-1 conversion method. So there's three online sources of marketing. There's two external events that they're going to, like those live events you talked about, and doing one internal event every month, making sure that they're
I think
continuously doing that.
if you break it into those three segments of what are you doing online, what are you doing inside your school internally, and what are you doing externally, I think it just makes it a little bit easier for school owners to understand that you got to hit all three,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes with new school owners are just relying on online, right, which can be amazing. Website gets you 20 30 leads, but they're missing maybe the community events or they're missing the internal events.
Hmm. For
Mm,
sure.
that's
For
true.
sure.
So you got them coming in the door. Now, what are you guys doing to keep them? To keeping students, what are some of the things that y'all are doing uh, to keep them in there, keep them interested, keep them uh, wanting and motivating them to get to the next level, whatever that is, whether it's black belts or second degree or whatever, however your ranking system goes.
Sure, sure, sure. So we try to help them visualize themselves um, as future black belts, right? So we start using that language, right? We start kind of sharing the vision of, hey, how would you look when you're a black belt? How would you sound when you're a black belt, right? So we say black belt a lot. We want to make sure we teach killer classes, right? Make sure classes are fun. Every class finishes with what we call a black belt challenge. So that's something that is exciting and they want to come back, right? They're like, hey, can we do it again? Yeah, come back to your next class. We can do it again, right?
Yes.
So to make sure that class starts on a high note, ends on a high note. We're starting on time, ending on time. And then we'll do some cool special events like we did our school picnic. We'll do a free back to school party. We'll try to do a buddy bash. So we try to make it fun. Each week is a theme as well. So like this week is buddy week. Next week is star testing. Week before was dodgeball week. So we want to make sure each they have something to look forward to when they're coming to class. They know what they're going to be doing that day, and they always have some type of event that's coming up that they can look forward to.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And when you guys were moving from one location doing this and trying to retain those students to two locations to three locations, um, what kind of challenges? Because I think sometimes people think, "Oh, I'm good. I got one location. I got 150 students. Let me go to this, open the next one, and open another one, and it'll be so easy." So what kind of challenges did you face, and what would you say to that school owner who's like, "Oh, I got 150. Let me go open the next one."
So a lot of it is just your systems. Like if you have one school, you can change things around really fast. But when
Mhm.
you're at multiple locations, it takes a while to update. Let's say you want to update pricing or you want to update a process or whatever. It just takes a while to make those changes. And then since you're not there, you're not seeing exactly what's happening. Like, hey, is your system being followed when it comes to confirming appointments? Is the staff getting back to leads right away? That kind of stuff kind of can get harder to manage because now you're at two different places, right? So even if you're at 2 days or 3 days at one location, 2 days at the other location, it's hard to manage. And sometimes things in the beginning were getting slipped, through the cracks. So in the beginning, it was definitely a learning curve of how to make sure the system's solid. Everyone has access to, our Google Calendar. Everyone, if there's a schedule change, everyone gets that notification, that kind of stuff.
It's
Um,
really the communication was huge for your whole
Yeah.
entire.
I would agree. I would agree with that, right? You can just tell the energy of your staff based on their level of communication, right? Are they texting you? Are they calling you? Are they excited to speak with you? Versus they're not, or they're not communicating with you. Um, and then
Yeah,
I think when it comes to multiples versus single, now you're managing people's personality versus before you're
mhm,
managing the students and the business. Now it's about, hey, is this person having a good day? Are they having, a down day? Like, how do we motivate them to make sure they do what they're supposed to do?
Mm,
instead of keep
great.
crushing it. Yeah.
Really good. Good information. What do you what do you have to say to someone who thinks that they can't make it to seven figures? They're really trying to do everything they can to get to seven figures, but let's say they're not there. They're doubting themselves a little bit.
Sure,
What
sure.
did you have to kind of go through in order to, as far as your mindset, to kind of tweak that a little bit?
So I think the best investment is a coach, right? You get a coach that's been there, done that already, and then they can help you speed up the process, right? That's one. Um, the cool thing is, you get what you expect, right? You get what you ask for, right?
Right.
So if you're saying, "Hey, how can I make this happen?" You get all the answers versus, "Oh, this is really tough. I don't know
Mhm.
if I can make this happen," right? Your brain just answers the questions we ask it, right? I
Yeah.
think getting a mentor is the big thing if you want to push over, any plateau that you're facing.
Yeah. I mean, we've invested a ton, on our way before we hit seven figures. We invested a ton since then, with our other businesses that are doing seven figures and that type of thing. We've always invested into mentors. And um, the way that I like to think about it is, if you're standing on the outside edge of a jungle and you have a machete in your hand and you're thinking, I need to get to the other side of the jungle. Do you go through and try to chop down that jungle yourself, or do you look over and someone's already chopped down most of the path? I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna go the one that's already been mostly chopped down and I can follow a path that's already there to get to the other side. Um, for you, what was something that was unexpected on your way to seven figures, good or bad? Um, and how did you work on overcoming it?
So, I mean, COVID was a rough time, right? During that 2022, right? So there was a point where our lease at our first location had expired. So I didn't, and this was uh, May, right? So everything was happening in New Jersey, March, April, May. So I decided not to renew the lease and just combine locations. So we learned a lot, right?
Smart move.
And then back in, I think, 2021, like towards the end, then we went back to, separating those locations. But
Yeah.
it just gave us the lesson was flexibility, right? You got to adapt with everything that's happening. Um, the big takeaway during that time was, don't have all my eggs in one basket. So I kind of
Mhm.
diversified a little bit too. Um, and so far, it's been working really, really well, right? We have three locations that are doing well. And we're heading in the right direction. I'm happy where we are. And even if we had 2, 3 locations. I think if you set it up properly, you don't need more than 1 or 2 locations to do really well in the martial arts and have a good lifestyle and have a positive impact, teach killer classes, right? So that's the lesson I got from COVID is like, you don't really need more than 2 locations or 1 location. You can get all your needs met if you're running it properly, and your team is happy, you're happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that systems are huge for that. Did you find like with us after COVID, it really accelerated us to push our own internal systems and how we were doing things? Were there any systems or things that you changed post COVID to get you guys out of that?
So, using more QR code, using more links, using more technology than anything than we were doing before. So even our enrollments, we have a QR code where parents can scan it and just sign up. We have a QR code for all of our membership policies and procedures. We want those two things to be filled out right away.
Right.
So we just made it easier for them to be able to do that. That was one quick shift. We started doing more staff training as well, right? Just to have a little bit more. Of a stronger bench if we needed that. Because with multiples, I think you do always need that, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah. So
Yeah.
those are the 2 shifts during that time.
I hear you. So you really leaned more into developing out your leadership team post COVID. Sometimes people do like what my dad did to me, and a lot of other people like, oh, go help that kid over there, and like you're a leadership team member, automatically. We don't do that now inside our own school. We have a specific method that we use. Are you guys very formalized in your process for how someone becomes a leader, an assistant, that type of thing?
Yeah, so we have a program for leadership, right? And those guys usually get, 1 class a week to go over how to be a good assistant. We call it our CIT program, Certified Instructor Training Program. So they get to help out in class, whether it's they wanna come the whole day, they wanna come for 1 class, that's up to them, and they just get, like, 3 paths, right? Most martial arts students take. Either they got their black belt, they're gonna go learn a different martial art. They're gonna do a different sport, or they're gonna, stop training martial arts, or maybe they become a teacher or a competitor, right? Maybe so there's 4 paths, right? If you add the one that
Yeah.
quits. So we wanna try to give those guys a path that wanna be a teacher, that wanna give back, that wanna be on the other side, at least that option, right? If you remember back in the day, we used to have demo team, we had leadership team, we
Yeah.
had SWAT team. Like people want to be part of, exclusive club or exclusive team. Yeah. That's the way I came up through those teams. And those guys were the tightest. Those guys had the best relationships. They had the friendships outside. So that's what we found. If we can have that type of team, that type of culture, they tend to be around for a long time. And those are the guys that enjoy being in front, right? Usually the demo team enjoys being in front. The
Right.
leadership team tends to be, they tend to be the ones that are also really good teachers.
Awesome. Well, MJ, there's a lot of things that you're absolutely doing right to be able to make
Yeah.
this type of impact and to be able to inspire people. One thing, as we're on this podcast, one of the things we always try to ask our guests is, what would you say to someone that maybe is sitting there? Imagine yourself 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and you have maybe an idea of what the future is or could be, but you just need that little push or you just need that little spark of like, I can do it. What would you say to that school owner who's in the trenches, working hard to achieve their dreams?
Sure. I would try to get him outside of his normal environment, right? I would say, "Hey, you're doing great here, but the reason we're here is because you haven't maybe been exposed to a bigger vision or a bigger way of doing things." So I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. I would tell him to, hey, maybe go to the next live UPW, right? Unleash the
Yeah,
power within. I went to that event, and the next year I opened up my location, right? It's just a powerful event to change your frequency, to
yeah,
change the way you're thinking, right? It's hard to just give him, a couple of sentences and their thinking changes. We literally have to take them out of their current environment and put them in a different environment so that
Yep.
they see things differently now.
yeah,
That's what I would do.
yeah. I think for dad and I, like we read a lot of books, been to a lot of events. I think 10x is easier than 2x was one of the books
Yeah.
we read that was huge. But totally agree with that. MJ, I really appreciate you being here, sharing your knowledge. If someone's trying to reach out to you, where's the easiest place to find you? Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Sensei MJ Sing on Instagram and MJ Sing on Facebook. Those are the fastest ways.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much for being here, MJ. We appreciate it. And we'll see everybody back on the Seven Figure Secrets podcast.